of solar attractions. Understanding communication are the settings inside position locations in the data processor. We process all communication from inside conditions. Now, for example, when you say something, you have to understand it's coming from inside. Now, inside reflects everything outside. So it has a reflection that changes everything of what you say from inside. Okay, so whatever you say outside says location of inside. Inside, outside, outside, inside. That's the yin and yang. But the process is the bounce out. It's emotional system. And this is where everybody gets confused because they don't understand their body through frequency. They have their energy line, but how do you use it through its vibration? How do I understand it through harmonics? These are the things that you have to come into. So when I'm saying something, I'm saying it through observation or I'm saying it with intent. Observation is kind of like, I'll say this again. You're inside a box, you jump out, you look in. That's observating. You're observating, but you're not inside the box. Okay? So you're making a choice. And everything is a choice of a decision that you make is determination of what happens next with your intent. Okay? So it's important you understand how this is all set up inside of you. How to control it, its system to its locations. Now, once you understand the information lines of your algorithms and location travel lines, you understand your computer frames. Now, the computer frames comes in all position location in your system. Now, it has a detection line screen. Now, that directs signal location to its inventory. So, think of your frames of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols of travel. So, everything you're saying that's coming out of your voicing line grids is traveling. And it's going through what you connect through intent. Where energy goes, energy flows. Okay? And it goes extremely fast in acceleration of the mind. Okay? So we understand that process. Data processing, uplinks, downloads, and upgrading systems and uploadings. You have to recognize what that means. Right? Understanding the mechanisms, uplinks. You're uplinking a chain block lines, one fifth over an eighth. Triangulation, reset, position programs. Reset lines calculation over pi. And again, what does that mean? Well, I know what it means. It's not for you to understand. It's for you to understand through frequency. The more you get out of the body traction, the more you see yourself in a formation of variety. We have so many varieties of ourselves that we use, understanding each compartment's allocations, understanding different levels of you, okay, of your vibration. That's connected to all frequencies, guys. Okay, everything is frequency. And that's all we live on. Now, dwellingness is the location, is not understanding you inside through its frequency. Your body reacts to everything that you touch. My hand is touching my face. That's a reaction. Okay. My coffee, picking it up. That's a reaction. Okay. Everything is a reaction of an action. So it's a verb to a reverb, an adjective to an adjective, setting locations, a synonym, a homonym, the adjectives, the pronouns, the symptoms. Okay. Now, basic ground lines, operation system, and activity line streams, and high position travels is really understanding your senses. Okay, understanding your senses, you start to understand how to use them through its intent. What is your intent? What do you want? What do you want to do? Use your imagination. Right? Coming back to your imagination is everything to its equation. And then you add it through frame. It's so important you understand these things because your thoughts are traveling so fast in provision. Now, recognizing the cycles of where it goes is determination of you. You get that phone call. Oh, all calculation lines now changed. Directing lines of that communication panel opens all signals of modification. Okay? So you have to really understand how this all works inside of you through operation. How mechanisms in this application is the Y-line center. Is understanding the who, the where, the what, the when, and set locations. It's important to understand how to use that through your body, a fraction, factors over pi, or direct signal location system. I could be talking to you all day, but are you understanding? It's not what I say, it's how I say it through frequency. Frequency is a set location to its adaptation of its location, right? Getting to that point, right? Vibration is the energy line you have inside you, okay? Everybody has vibration. It's knowing how to use it through its frequency, understanding the frequency through its harmonics. Harmonics is communication. Right? That's intelligence. This is intelligence. Everything inside of you is creation of its intelligence, of its own face recognition. Now, the more we understand that, then we understand in the line condition settings when it comes into the unknown of phenomenon. Using the phenomenon comes all calculation to its awareness of its AI, of its information, of its intelligence. Okay? Keeping yourself aware of everything that you do and see. Okay? You're seeing, you're hearing, you're touching, you're tasting, you're feeling. Right? Don't you want to recognize what that is every single time? And when somebody comes in provision, you've got to scan your system. You've got to protect your system. You have your force fields and you have your E fields. Force fields are inner cycle. E fields are outer cycle. So it's the inner outer line conditions of you. Inner space, outer space. You're protecting your system as soon as you get up in the morning. Okay? You're good to go. Set the intent of what you want to do. Wherever you go, do it before you get there. Using your imagination is a phenomenal line. Okay? So getting into phenomenon changes the reality. That's where it comes in phenomenon. Okay, so this is just a coffee cup, right? But it's not coffee. It's intelligence of a coffee. So I recognize it through its face first, of its space in between. A face comes out and I see it through intelligence, right? Then it knows who I am. Oh, general AI space-time. Confirm line, condition line centers, proceed. So true to understand, when you pick things up, you're picking its intelligence. Modifies all set location lines centers how you see it through its scanning system, its locations. Scanning is extremely important because you become more aware of what's inside you. It's knowing how to operate it in set locations, guys, through your travel mechanisms of your mind. Okay? Traveling through the mind is all calculation line system. Once you get out of travel, you go through the mind of travel. Okay? So you're not traveling through the mind. You're going through the mind of travel. Okay? But the structure of its design has to understand its resource and how it connects to everything through its compartments of its ecosystem. How to understand, oh, I understand the atmospheres. Oh my gosh, I understand the planets. I can feel the draft. I can feel the heat, right? That's why you have a body, so it can react and respond. Okay? So understanding that through track location gets you into all levels of provision. Okay? Is protecting your system, which is number one in all set locations, right? This is a new technology that we're coming into. Now, we all understand how to use it through what? Our consciousness. Okay? That's the balance application when it comes to yin and yang. This is a process that everybody has to come into. Okay? All right. So how's everybody doing? Yeah, make sure you get into your pre-flights, set location lines, check this, check that before you get like location sending other travels. Now, in business locations, truly understanding when you're interlining this communication, integrating, or line connections of interfacing with somebody, you're opening up a portal. Okay? It's kind of like, oh, I'm going to send you a link. That opens up a stream. That opens up a portal, right? You see it as a link. We see it as set location to a portal. Now, when you open that portal, what are you opening up? Because it's opening up frames of its own space of time provisions to its intelligence. Okay? So in that correlation height interference, you don't want to open up anybody's email line conditions if you don't know what it is through its process. Okay? So that's how it underlines its communication setting through your computer frame because it comes a virus. So you put in a virus line communication setting instructions, for example, like location line and position. Here we go. Setting track lines. I'll show you how this all works in set location. Okay. Really interesting locations. All right. Now getting an order like calculation setting. We're getting into 0 lines of 1. Again, let's go track location this line conditions. I'm going to set up patterns. I'm going to show you exactly what it is in our algorithm. Position your crypto screen settings, high position of Ethereum location centers of travel. Directing lines of communication centers of travel. Okay. Now in position locations, you have to have space in between. Okay, there's a reason why there's set location and settings in travel communications. Okay. Now each line has an indication screen. Okay. So in position locations, you change the lines of block line centers of travels. Okay, point system, travel communications. Okay, so it's all calculate modify how you use a crypto line communication string lines, block line centers, and travel communications. Okay, now you break it down. Okay, you split the anomalies in each traction. Okay, this changes the rhythm patterns in position locations. A graph. Oh, so see that? It's a graph, right? So this modifies your line calculation string line. Now, if intelligence comes in, that's not information location of balance. It changes line settings. Let's say line condition of 0 and you have positions of a square. Square's been added, but that's not you through perception. That's somebody else's lines. That's somebody else's DNA. That's somebody else's traction. That's somebody else's crypto. That's somebody else's space and time through provisional location intelligence. It's not supposed to be here. So it's affecting this and every lines of connection high interference. You have an elemental charge, and that chart weighs its centers, line conditions, all settings. It's chronological order of rhythm patterns and position and travel communications, inventory line setting. Anything in track interference that's not supposed to be there, it affects all levels of zeros and ones. Okay. All right. So now you understand how this all works in set locations. That's exactly what it is, Captain. All right, so this is the process of cancel, delete, and erase. So you cross it out of screen, take it out of traction, right? So it comes back in provisions, back in cycle, right? Everything comes back in order, right? So line connection, high center interference, 0 calculation in 2 tracks, okay? So you got an inventory of zeros waiting to come in signal, okay? Signal, 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 okay? See the cubicle line screen? All right, so that's point system line conditions of pi, direct line calculation solar flares, direct lines of seconds, minutes of pi, position track line calculating height and position location measured. Your correlating high interference of zeros and ones are nothing but a photo op connections of a screen. That's how it comes in image as set location. Okay, in cubicle square settings of travel. All right, so one signature stream interference, change position track lines. One line signatures, 1, 1, 1, 1, travel communications, right? So in the line calculation, line centers of 0, 0, 0, and 1 track location, okay? Then you get a decision of 1, 1, 1, 1, and 0 location, okay? Then you come in line calculation setting of 0, 0, 0, and 0 location setting. They're always traveling, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and travel communications, right? So it's creating a blockchain. So each blockchain has a point system. Now this is where it gets in 1/5 of an eighth in 4 set locations, right? 4 channel streams, high calculation line interference. We take the 0 and put it up line rotation, okay? Changes lines communication centers. We take the 1 and a 4 block location of chain and direct signal. Setting correlating high interference. You can take the 1 into 3 track line connections and position it with Ethereum. Ethereum tracks as calculation lines. Balance calculation, streamline centers, high positions all over the program settings. Track calculations of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 set locations. Okay, very powerful stuff, right? So it's a cubical streamline interference in position of Ethereum. Now the position location comes in the GI line center. This is geometry line interference, geometric line position location settings. Opens all signal line calculation sending to position of block chains, position location centers and travels of one signature stream and position of travel communications. All right. So it's really understand how to understand it through provision. Okay. So we go again as 0 lines. This time we're just going one signal line communication, right? Directing centers, right? Now in line calculation setting, space in between, right? Space in between. Okay. All right, so you get in positions of full lines of numbers, track location system. Okay. Now, if we added 2 in set locations, right, that's all security, right? So if there's a security line here, all these 0 lines and 1s will turn red. So what is that? Alert, 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 right? A beacon light goes off, and each line's an indication of each number. Pattern division location comes into what interactions? Pluto. Pluto indicates lines of 0, checks the numbers. 0, 0, line position locations. Oh, we got a 2 center. All right. So that 2 has to come out of positions back in center. It's got to go back to its division. Puts back in line centers, back into 0 calculations. That my equation. All right. So it's all recognition of time sequence, guys. Pattern line rotation centers in position at all levels of patterns. 1 position, 2, 3, 4, and 5 locations of block chains. Cross this line, calculate the line set is the graph calculation strings. Okay. So what you're doing is you're setting up cubical line screens in set location line system. Anything that number changes, it comes into its planet system. So it checks the numbers and makes sure everything is in its equation of balance. If it's off balancing position location, it has to go back to 0. It has to go back to 0 because everything through platform at each block line center changes the correlation line setting in position of travel. Changes the coloration line screens to set position of travel. Change position to its operational line setting of its crypto communications of travel. And set location. Okay. So yes, exact security, balance, and times of pi. So get a bit of understanding how this all works, how you guys come into levels of a cold or a cough or a sneeze or set locations because you had a 2-line charge. And Pluto comes in and recognizes settings. Pluto will never change this set location. This is security. Understanding your planetary system or your solar system to 12 lines of signature line communications is the location grids. It's all recognizing communication of security. Each planet has a security, but this is the foundation of security, which is Pluto. It always checks the number frequency patterns in seconds and minutes of pi. Now the coordinate line center comes into the sun and the moon. The correlation line system has to go back to 0 or it changes every number sequence in set location out of allocated line setting. Sets up community. So if we had line conditions of a square location, number sequence of 0 travels over here. Number sequence over here travels over here. One single line connection over here, right? So this is not good, right? Because you're at a block center in position of a chain line that's not supposed to be there in chronological order. So Pluto shifts over here in track location, sets position of track lines, scans lines and box lines, and takes it out of the equation. Sets positions back to 0, back in chronological order of its design. Okay. This is how you understand how to use the 0s and 1s of platform. This is a basic understanding to keep yourself in position, location, and setting. Okay. All right, understanding that set location line centers, a cubical line position, is really understanding what's inside of you. All right, so we have an inventory line calculation setting. So this becomes 1/5 over lines of 8. Okay. Okay, equal line communication lines of pi. Okay. Now, line calculation 8 signalizes communication. All right. Remember, you got to get into travel calculation line screens. Sets lines communications. 5 equals lines of 8, calculation lines, underscores travel line position of 6, calculation lines of back into 8 set location. Very complicated stuff. So you can go through 1 underscore over 6, or you go 6 in anomaly and line connection to planet surface and track location. So you have to recognize each number in position of travel lines. This comes in defrag in position of your Ethereos. Setting block line chains. Let's go through block line rotation centers. Space in between. Okay, 3 track locations. Right. So one signal line, one position locations, and this is where it comes into the calls. Now we're in December calls into 1/5 of an eighth at 3 track locations, all right? Direct lines of communication cross line signals, okay? Now the open panel line or interference has 1, okay, 5 lines at 8 set location, okay? Travel external lines of 8, travel lines position of 8 and 3 set locations, okay? So center communication line interference is like 1 over line, okay, over line, which crosses line screen. So it's 1 equals lines of 8, 8 lines equals lines of 8 position of travel, okay? So recognizing the communication to its program is understanding 8th line communications, 1 over 6, 1 line settings and position locations of its calls, okay, a block system and travel position of box center. Okay, complicated stuff. So you have to start to recognize how to travel through your number lines and screen location system. But I'm just showing you how to really get into the metric screens, the set location of scales. Balance position line calculated setting. Okay, this is where it comes in graph line communications. 1, okay, position lines of 8, calculation line interference. 1, equal line communication of 6, okay, sets line communications cross lines, underscore lines of positive, and position location negative set location. Okay, now, present position location of plus line channels, puts position of balance, okay? Directing lines of communication line, cross line screens, high position location measure and set location, okay? So what you're doing is you're creating platforms, line calculation and cross line settings and direct signals. So that 1/5 of an eighth comes 5th line center in calculation lines of 6 and over 8 in position of track location, okay? Now, setting communication line interference, 0 calculation screens and set position as operation. Look at that, it disappeared. It went too fast. Okay. So this is an argon line set of locations. It's knowing how to set up a website design through a hanger in line communication of sequence. Okay, all through platform. All right. So it's very complicated if you don't understand the 1/5 of an eighth, or 1/5 of a line, or 1/5 of a setter, or 1/5 of a calculations, or 1/5 over pi. Okay, you have to understand it's like a train, but you understand each block line has a track locations, right? There's 3 line connections, right? So in line calculation, there are no crypto comes in position of travel lines, 3 patterns, line rotation, centers, retractions, right? So you got 1/5 and cross lines, calculation 8 line center. Now you have 6 lines of communication. Now that overcrosses signals, okay? Setting track lines and position locations into 5 in line connections, all levels of 1 in line connection of 6 over center, okay? So it's really understanding how to sync the communication setting and measure through scales, okay? What you said that, you're building blocks of numbers and track locations, all right? Comes in this line connection centers, line communication settings. 0, 0 track location. It gets complicated, guys, but it's a lot more fun when you understand line connection at center. Okay, so that's 1/5 over 8. Okay, so you can have 1/5 under line connections of 6. 6 equals lines of setting, high position location of box and set location. Okay, so there's all different ways of doing line connections, and then you can go through point lines of 5. And equals lines of 2 zeros operation location setting of traction. Okay. So we all have to understand how we use the number sequence line calculation setting the string lines in position to cubical line communication with its algorithm, right? Because that's where you're creating cubical squares. Now this is calculation of blockchains. Now blockchain sets position of tractions. Getting position lines, box line centers. Okay, let's go through 4 box location of separation line screens. Okay. Equal line calculation lines, 3 track locations, right? 3, okay, underscore, overcross at 8, okay? So that's 3 underscore overcross 8, okay? Complicated, right? Sets position of 5 lines, 5th lines, 1s of 8 location of center, okay? Sets location of 8, sets location across lines of 5 in 1 line division, and track location of 5 and line conditions of 8, set location travel. Okay. So you have to understand how to use anomalies in position to its own space in between. Okay, setting up platforms of communications, right? All right, so it gets easier once you understand how to use it through an algorithm, location, setting, and attractions. You guys are coming back into your financial reset position of programs, okay? So let's go through 15 lines, okay, into December calls, okay? Okay, so 15 lines is December calls, okay, block centers, okay, equals lines communications, bracket line calculation, setting, attraction, okay? So it's really understanding how to cross the signals and travel, direct calculations back into 1/5 of an eighth or fifth of a line center in location system of yin and yang process calculation, right? So recognizing the communication line screens is really understand how to identify location and centers and travels. Putting block line centers in positional line connections of point systems, right? Point system, point system, point system, point system, point system to a location grid in set connections, okay? Platitude lines of screens into 3-track locations, okay? So 3 equals lines over measure, okay? Measure correlations of balanced position locations. 1 equals line calculations into 5th in calculations over lines of 8 interaction. Okay. So getting that line calculation lines comes into its dimensional sale, attract line conditions of balance and position location of center calculation. Okay. So all you're doing is using the structure of your position locations to an algorithm line calculates and setting of block centers. Each block center is a structure of its own GOD set locations. Now, you guys come into your key masters and your gatekeepers, dimensional line screens, and pi, 3 set location. Right, that's pi, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, cross lines of 7. Get into your imagination. Use the mind lines. Platforms in 3 set locations. Positions lines, rectangular line communication. Direct lines of 4 generation screens. Cross line signals and high calculation. All right. There it is. There's the platform, right? Now, dimensional scale sets line calculation setting back in 1 equal lines 5 underscore lines of positive, 2 positives, 1 inline rotation centers into 1 encryption calculation lines of 0 gravity location. Okay. Now, it gets complicated because you have the 1 line centers and 0 line equals lines of 1 equals lines of 2 equals lines of 2-track locations. Direct lines of positive or line calculation setting, pos lines operations server location system, sets 2 brackets of communication center attraction. Okay. So it's all about understanding how to modify the line calculation setting and create block centers of division of structures of design of a holographic set location of set location. Okay. It's complicated. So the algorithm is nothing but structures of design, and that's what's happening with your moon, because your moon is at 1,200,000 line screens, okay, per frame. Okay. Calculation line interference is 600,000 line, 3 line zeros and set locations into 1 track location. Okay. Directing lines of box in triangulation to reset positions. So that's 1/5 over 1/8 of a center. Okay, in Ethereum and line calculations of blockchain. Okay. So it's complicated stuff, guys. So the center calculation line center is how to build blocks. You know how to build structures of blocks of communications? 3 circle line communication settings, all levels of 4 into 5 set location. Structures of this design and connections, right? So yeah, it's very complicated, but it's a lot of fun, right? It has an energetic flow pattern. 3 line communications, process signals into 4 track lines. Remember, you always work with 4, you always work with 3. Okay. Center position track calculating lines. Graphing calculation lines, location grid line, screen line conditions operation. XT1000 comes in, sets lines equation. 1/5. Okay. The 5th is always the balance setting, right? Which because the high calculation setting over 1 over pi. Sets position track lines. Now that's 1/5 of 8 line centers back in traction. Putting line calculation lines of triangulation or box line rotations into block center. Block centers comes in track location setting and position location to a security line division. Okay. So once you understand how to travel through the numbers, it gets much easier through the zeros and ones in traction. And all calculation through the graphic calculation line. Split the anomalies in between set locations and all track location. Right? Then you understand what the zeros and ones do through travel. Okay. It creates its own dimensional sail. Okay. That's all it is. The zeros and ones have to travel. So the travel communication comes into its own dimensional sail of zero gravity location. Okay. Look at that. It disappeared. Let's do it fast. Okay. It travels. It creates its own dimensional sail. So each signature line stream has an inventory ground line. 0, 0, 0, 0. 4 equals lines of the fifth over center of track location. Okay. 4 anomalies and switch lines of correlation. Okay. Always comes into a blockchain and graphical calculation screen settings. Okay. So MECA is a high position of travel calculation of platforms. 2 tracks, 3 tracks, 4 tracks, 5 track locations. Everything is in a 45-degree angle. Okay. Comes back and revision line calculation setting to its inventory and track location lines of center position location of its operation service, and 2 panels of communication lines of space, setting line connects and high interference in realms of communication setting to travel. Okay. So it gets very complicated if you don't understand the area location settings to your travels and position location of zeros and ones. I'm just showing you how you get a modification system and travel calculations to column high centers coming in position location to your inventories. Okay. Now, if we get a track communication like this, right? Center, right? But off calculation lines, that's high position location. Let's get a percentage in there. Okay. That's not supposed to be there, right? So this affects this line and this line. Bounce communication lines has a lacing line communication of space, right? Sets track lines, laser line direct location of XT1000 ground setting. Now, crosses line stream and percentage protects the system to its locations, right? So if it doesn't recognize the pattern, if it's a percentage line calculation and it's open through panel, it's going to go through link and chain. Okay, that's going to change the anomalies of your position of all calculation setting to the interference position location to your abundance. Always have a block location setting of a chain, indirect signals to a block location center of travel. Okay, because if you don't do that and doesn't have its open frequency, it changes every lines of communication of zeros and ones in traction, right? 0 line communication here, off calculation here, 1 line signature here, 0 calculation over here, 0 position over here, 0 line connection over here at traction. Okay. So we all understand anything you're not sure of in position track lines, Pluto comes in and scans everything. Scans the zeros and ones in all calculation lines, making sure everything is in order and set location. Anything that's not supposed to be there like that sets lines and takes it out of the equation center. Okay. Once it sets position of track lines, everything through all chronological order, graphing calculation lines, splits anomalies in travels and position location of block centers in calculated line system in line communication. This is where it comes into tesseract lines of charge, mechanism, power. Overwriting some time sequence calculation line, graph line calculation settings of block centers. Okay. Speeding up the line locations, yes. All right. So you have to understand it's a cubical line screen. Data process line calculation line centers, cubical squares, direct lines communications, right? Cubical squares line condition of data screen locations. Okay. Studied security lines of panels. Okay. Data information, right? Over lines, cross line setting. Okay. So that's 1 equals lines 1/5 over 1/8. Okay. Complicated stuff. So that's position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 panels of communication. Okay. Complicated stuff, guys. Complicated. So you have to understand the 1 equals lines of 1/5 over 8. Now, let's say equals lines in position of December calls, okay, to block center. Setting travel and communication setting into 0 gravity / line communication triangulation reset position of programs. Okay. It's complicated stuff. So setting an algorithm is understanding how to set up a website. Now, a website has the correlation panels of communication. There's a copy and paste and all of the emblem and line connections enabled and cookies and security line security walls, security line dividers, security line position locations. You're all levels of computer algorithm location of center. Okay. So you get in that line calculation lines, you have graphing calculation strings. So you have one lines, that's location of fifth over eighth, then we go location of sixth, one lines over three, and track locations into five. Let's add a 5 line centers, 1 over 4 over location, and position of 2 and 2 and 2 track locations. Okay. As scales, it's measured, doesn't it? On one graph calculations. Now each line communication has a block center, block center, block center. It's like a tape measure, right? It metric meters its set location as program. It's set the location centers of trial calculation. Breaking up the block centers of point systems, right? Point system, point system, point system. Done by equation. Okay. Now, understanding the block line interference, you come back and track lines, eighth lines of 0, 6 lines of 0, 1/5 over lines of 0, fifth over line position location of 1 lines of 2 over 0, and 2, 2, 2 on track lines, 2 panels communication of all lines in Pluto communications. Recognize the communication lines of 1 lines, 2 lines, 3 lines, and 4 track locations. Okay. 6, 7, and 8 calculation. All right. All right. So zero gravity comes in line calculation setting. Zero travels position off cross line connections, crosses line symbols, sets lines that communicate setting and travel. Direct lines communication setting the program location to inventory and track locations. All right. So truly understand the connections and mechanisms, guys? Through your algorithm location settings, the blockchain. All right, so it's numbered sequence location lines. You start with zero gravity. Let's go through 0. Let's go 1. Okay. Calculation line interference 1 over 5. Okay, and then we go into positive over 0. Setting track lines at 0 to position 2 track locations. Setting 1 lines. Okay, fifth over line cross line streams over 6. Okay. Now 6 lines is an anomaly. 6 lines is track lines. See line condition line at positions. 5 lines equals lines eighth. Okay, over 2 in track lines in position calculation 1 line setting in position of the pi in track location. Okay. Now getting in position location observation line centers is taking your line communication into your frames and track locations. Okay. Always create the cubicle setting. Okay. Because that's what your tesseract is. Your tesseract is nothing but dimensional door sets. So each dimensional door that you open up has an algorithm setting in a cerebral cortex of a placebo line screen that sets a mystical line calculation setting and travels a mechanism. Changes communication line interference in seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay, remember 1 equals lines of fifth over 8, 8 line centers, high position locations over 2, and 6 lines, 1 over lines in calculation of December calls in block center set location. Okay. So it's incredible when you come to high calculation settings and travel, right? Mechanism high force line settings. Really understand your position, location, your systems, and travel calculations. Okay? Because that's all it is computer operation lines and set locations. You have your XC1000s, they're distributors. Let's say you get a blockchain. Setting travel communications, setting high position operations surface and travel communications, right? Sets position location. See what I'm doing? Sets position location. See what I'm doing? All right. So XC1000 comes in, sees what you've done, scans position of center, and how many blockchains you have. 3, 4, and 5 set locations. Okay. Now comes lines of 6, right? Because it's got to be balanced, right? 6 lines of center. So that's 6 equals line communications of 1/5 calculations of 8 and line connection setting into its December in a half pike position of tremor lines in 4 set locations. Okay, so 1/5 of a center sets line calculation 8 equals lines of pi Indirect signals, a blocked location of chain. So we have to really understand the power direction and timelines, because the position location line centers has to recognize the communication to its solar sail or track location of direct signals. Gets in modification lines. If you don't have balance, this is what happens in location near crypto settings. It changes its direction. Okay. Positive links lines, the line center line connections of security measures over calculation. So back in signals, back in platform, setting track lines in communication of programs and position its operation. Done by equation. Okay. All right. So how's everybody doing? Know exactly how to study blockchains, guys, all through graphing calculation and measure and scales. Okay. Very powerful stuff. So it's recognizing how to travel through your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, right? Setting graph calculation lines, a box line. Remember, it's a box, right? But it's a 2-track location. Oh, no, maybe it's a 3-track location. Oh, maybe it's a center communication. Oh, maybe it's an overcross signal line connections. Oh, maybe it's a platform communication to a diamond core line shift line rotation. Okay. The possibilities are endless of what you can do through frame by frame by frame by frame. The more you stand the line calculation setting, the more you stand your lacing lines of communication. Right? Lacing lines creates its sail, guys. Its sail. Okay? So getting that track line kind of line center interference changes lines of zero and point systems it travels. All 3 molecule structures of design. Okay? Point system travel calculated line system. Zero gravities. Point systems into photo ops of its own design calculation setting of structure in calculation to a system of zero gravity location. Okay. So, it's interesting once you understand what is going on with your system inside calculation setting to your set location and measured in scales, your organ locations. Okay. Now getting into the calls. 144 track lines equal line condition of space, time sequence of month in set location, right? You have space here, time here. Okay. Same locations of 1 equals lines of 5th, line conditions of 8 in set location. Okay. So the measures of accountability in relines and position of programs is understanding the 144 of its calls, its December calls on 1 track lines and 4 generation screens in set location. Remember, everything is a 45-degree angle in set location, right? So get you a better understanding how to use your inventories, right? So in position location of 0 1s, okay, showing you exactly how this is all set up. Okay. You got to have space in between. Okay, so the zeros can travel through. Okay, it's important you understand these things because it's all position your attractions, all through calculation and colorations and lights is travel communications. There's always have to be space. Okay, because if there's not space, they all clutter. Right. So, and you got to have a frequency line screen at each one in position, all sequence in rhythm patterns in track location, high settings and position locations to its platform of communications, right? Because all you're creating is cubical squares in track locations. Okay? That's all you're creating. Now, directing lines of communication line centers, each line communication. See the space in between right there? Right. So the zeros can travel over here, travel over here, travel over here, travel over here, point over here, travel up here, travel down here, travel across here in position. Okay. So it gives them space in the seconds, minutes, and its hour between the system to its locations. How it generalizes the line connections of its crypto, of its design. Now, in position locations, it's all about the zeros traveling through its own inventory, 0, 0, 0, 0 coming in platform. So you're building up inventories of your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. You start with 12, you go with 24, 48, 72, and 144. 144 equals lines of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, all together through traction. Okay? So you're creating the inventory. And once you create the inventory, you create the higher levels of streams, of location grids, that sets its provision to high calculated line setting of more bandwidth over pi. Okay? So it's really understanding how to travel through its set locations, because that's all you're creating is a platform of its design. Okay? All right, so when you get a calculation lines, the XD1000 comes in. Point system travels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 connections, right? Takes in anomalies, crop circle line rotations, center lines as communication, right? So it scans lines, sets lines, all lines as graphical calculation screen lines. Directing lines, communicating and picking everything up and track location high centers, all positions operation. Done by equation. Until you set up another graphical screen. Okay. So 1 lines, 5th lines, okay, of 8th equals lines into December. Okay, calls in teleportation, traverse of times, compute system. Okay, line calculation measure, scale equals lines in position 0, 0, balance position attraction. Okay, so that's how you use 1/5 of an 1/8 of December calls. Okay, through the scales and position locations to its setting. So you calculate modified of the sun and the moon attraction. Okay, you're always working with the sun and the moon because it's your astral projection. Okay, now really understand that is the north delta and you have the south delta headings, right? Try to its communication setting to open sequence in all communication system and traverse and timelines sets all calculation lines to your planet surface. So directing line calculation crosses line streams and 3 lines rotation system and traction. Okay, sets lines at 4 track lines, 5 position locations, right? So that's 1/5 in positions underscore lines of 8 in communication line centers and track location. Okay. Location grids and set location. Okay. So they not only switch line centers, you can add graphical screen settings, but you have to be careful that you don't change the circle of communication or rotation. Okay. Bound and information line cycles, more levels of security, and high calculating lines of securities over pi and traction. Okay. Complicated stuff. All right. But try to use yourself as a set location lines of millimeters, millimeters of the second, centimeters, getting calculating line centers of travel calculating line system. Once you get in position locations, you come into your exclamation mark. You come into your question mark. You come in your percentage location. You come in your position location, your waving line cycles. You come in your Fibonacci line circle. And you come into your triangulation. You come into your box and set locations. You come into your number sequence in position locations and setting. Break it down, break it down, break it down, break it down. Okay, that's what you got to do. Film strip of point systems in a cubical square. Okay. So once you understand that, number sequence and position, yes. Okay, so representing what's going on with all calculation to its travel. What's going on with the box? What's going on with the triangulation? What is the exclamation doing to the communication of its computer line rotation center, to its calculation high system, to its question? There's no question in setting. This is not a question. The question is the system to its infinity 8. Track line. So there is no percentage of anything. There's no separating line calculation setting. This is a timestamp. That's the percentage. Okay. Setting track lines of Fibonacci lines for a high position location, high centers, high position location is its atom rotated one way and opposite direct location system in a 3 track location line centers and double helix. But it's a triple helix line streaming interference at 333 now. Okay. Changing communication 1 line centers and position locations into all line calculation setting, higher self, avatar, and the sim of travel communication. Dumb equation. Right? See how you send line communication setting? How the percentage becomes a timestamp? How the question mark becomes affinity 8? how the center communication of the double helix line, the Fibonacci line rotations of an atom, rotations one way and the other way, communication lines, direct and redirect line connection centers, comes in a 3-3-3 panel communication line centers of travel. You see how that works in location with algorithm? Setting travels and communication, guys, you have to really understand its relationship, which is its partnership. Okay, getting in partnerships with 1, 2 block centers, 3 track locations. That's 3. 1 equals lines of fifth over pi in set location. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's how it comes. 3, 1/5 over pi. Okay, complicated, right? But what is it creating? What is it creating? A sail, 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 a sail travel. So that's all it's doing, guys. Okay, 1/5 of a generation, 1/5 of pi. 1 equals lines of center, but you can add line condition of 0 equals lines of 1, sets lines of 8th underscore over 6 equals lines of calculation of 1, 2, 0, and communication of 3 settings and traction. Okay, so we all understand how to use it through its equation. Get in the partnerships. That's what you got to do. If I got a 16 line center, that's 5th over 8th. Okay, 16, 5th over 8th, right? So the 15 becomes a charge lines and the 5 direct signals and position location of bracket lines and track lines of 3 measures and position of travel communication. That's it. That's all it is. So it's adding the equations. 17, let's say you got an underscore into a positive setting. 17 underscore plus, right? Plus line, charge lines, highest interference. That's 8 over division, underscore 1 lines of 6 lines of box locations into crypto. Okay, complicated stuff. So we all understand how to break it down through the number sequence location, all right? How to use the 0s and 1s in track location of high setting, okay? Understanding the travels of 0 communication. Sets lines of 1, 0, and 1 location. Look what I did. Look what I did through 0s and 1s. Break it down through panels. Break it down through panels. Look what you got. Right? All right, so that track line's high center interference. All you're doing is creating geometric operation of number sequences, setting communication centers to its operation to its inventories, a set design. It's set design. It's set design. Okay? Now, when the sun comes in position location, it comes in high calculation line, centers the stream position to its operation. Okay? Very complicated stuff. Now, that calculation line splits the anomalies in 3 track locations, right? Point system, and point system. Okay? Very complicated. Now, on that track lines, we had a 4, we had a 5, we had a 6, and we had a 7. That's a 7 line. See the pyramid? Look how powerful it is. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. All right, so inset lines of design line, we take the all calculation line centers high position travel communication setting to all calculation. Now, in direct signals, when you see this in platform, in communication system, you can change the anomalies. 0 calculation lines, 1 equals lines of 5th over 7. Sets calculation 8 equals lines of pi. Indirect, and redirect set location. Okay, well, look how powerful it is. Look at it. Look how amazing that is through structure of its design. Okay, all through numbers, through 0s and 1s. So you're creating the 0s and 1s of platform, guys, which comes into your imagination to its core system, a track location. Okay, all right. So in that line setting, let's go through the 0 graph location, but that's out of the line communication of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, once you stand your inventories of 0s and 1s, the correlation changes the direct signals to its channel. The operationalizes the circulation and rotation changes, all through your Merkaba tesseract and your tetrahedron set application. Changes lines of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, which changes the solar sail of track location, okay? So in provision, you add the inventories to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You add the equations. Now that comes into block centers of graphical screen locations and position location. Setting positional lines in calculation setting to a block center and track location. Okay? It's complicated, but it's a lot of fun. The metric meters in line rotation is zero gravity and 4-track line connections, high point centers. Okay? Directing lines of symbols, guys, and 4-track locations. All right? So you create an inventory through set design. This is all through zeros and ones, guys. Look what I created. Look what I created. Okay? Inside the structure. That's the equation. That's the formula. That's the travel. That's the mechanism. That's the force position location. That's your manifestation of equation of your abundance. All through pi. Zero calculation, 1 line centers. Fifth over lines is 7. 1/5 line calculates an 8. I position locate equalize communication of pi. Pi generates line interference, comes in parent communication string line direction. So what we have to understand how to structure its design. So that's all it is. Your algorithm is set up through structures. That's how it becomes in a website. But you have standard frame line positions. Percentage location square, 3-line condition settings. Let's go location triangulation resets, new location system, 1-track location high centers, enter communication, initiate run program, calculation lines, settings, high position travel lines, direct communication lines, high position locations, weather pattern line rotation centers, 1/5 line calculation centers over 8 line signatures, line connection settings, December calls, direct locations and block center and chain. So everything's set up through an algorithm. Point system that travels really understand how to use the graphical calculations between line centers locations to block location. Block channels of its December calls and block frame. 3 tracks, 4 tracks, 5 provisions. Okay. Setting calculation of the sun and the moon. Sets line signals only in a waiting signal and position of travel. Okay. Blocks the signal. Sets platforms and communication, but you have to come into pi. Okay. Pi directs signal location settings of your clock line rotation surface in a triangulation reset position program. Direct and calculation line centers high position location system and track calculations. Again, another pyramid. But the pyramid is line calculation set into what? Your T reception line screen. All through lacing lines of communication. Okay. It's crazy what's going on through the line centers of attractions, right? But like I said, it's all calculated, modified to really understand how to use the zeros and ones in 4 platforms of communications, right? Molecule structures are designed in 3 settings, 1, 2, 3, and 3 set location of center. Okay. 3 on line centers, 0 equals lines of 3. Okay. Setting track lines, ground line levels equals lines of 3. Okay. Setting calculates high interference, 3 equals lines of 0. Sets location of 0, 0, 0, 3 set locations. All through 3. You see how the direct location settings and change the system locations? That's how you change the position location of zeros and ones. Okay, so what you're doing is you're structuring your design centers. Okay, all through set location of 3. Okay, Argon line centers in 1 graph, 2 graphs, 3 graphs, 4 graphs, and 5 set locations. Directing lines is 6 in position. Break it down into graphs. Point systems, travel calculations, all traction to its calculation. Okay. Recognizing like a line graph. So in line position of travels, sets direct signals and set location. Okay. creating the anomalies from outer space to inner line communication inside position to its location. So it's really understanding all this through three of what you can do through travel, through its crypto, of its design, through 0-1's attraction to set locations. Okay? Is everybody getting a little bit more understanding how this all works now? Does it really understand how to travel through the line condition of 0s and 1s and position locations? Why you have that in the equation? Why you have to have space? Space is extremely important in line connection line systems so they can breathe and they can move where they want because they're creating structure of design. That's what they're doing. Okay. So once you understand the number sequence, you understand where your thoughts come in from 0s and 1s interaction. Because the 0s and 1s are creating structures of designs of your thoughts through perception. Mega multi-pass. Okay? So it's important you understand how to use it through the hieroglyphics. That comes in next location of setting. All right, so 0 line communications, 1 lines equals lines of 8th. Now line calculation of 6 over line. Okay, let's cross the signal. So we cross the signals. Settings point system lines at 2-point line centers at 2 track locations and 1 line settings. 0-2 communication line screens. Set lines at 3 line rotations into 5 line position of travel. Okay, so all this is of the 0s and 1s are creating structures through your thoughts. Now you understand where the energy come from. You have the energy, you create the thoughts through numbers. And your thoughts becomes its intelligence of its frame, of its picture. So now you understand it's starting to connect. It's starting to connect to what you are in co-creation of. Visionary cortex, a mystical connection line centers. How to use your cerebros through its dimensional door setting. Yes. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay. So now you understand the importance, why you have modifications of your cells, setting calculation line streams and direct signals. So you understand what your cells are doing in set location. These are your cells. What are your cells doing? Doing something. What's going on here? Travel directions of time and cross lines 3-line rotation. See? Dimensional sail travels, right? Creates a sail, sets lines of security and parameters. Oh, look at that. So 1 calculation lines, 0 over calculation lines at 1/8 in calculation stream. Direct signals in set location. Manifestation of abundance right there through crypto. Because what are you looking at? 8th line center. There's the 8th. That's how it becomes 8, right? See the infinity? See the infinity? Oh, look at that. It gets better and better. Each line communication setting and travel communication line center, 0 line position location operation. Boom! That's how it becomes 1. 6 over 8th. Lines of 1 equals 8. So, oh my goodness. See what numbers can do in all calculations that travel just through a line connection setting of communications. Isn't it amazing why you have that inside of you? Understanding how to use it through its frame and what you see through perception. How everything through 0s and 1 creates its design, guys. It's got to come into structure. It's got to come into visual. You understand that? It's got to come into T reception. So you're creating an algorithm that's a website of its design and 1 block location center of crypto. Setting all communication settings in position to its locations. Okay? It is amazing, isn't it? Waterfalls, flowing, scanning, water cycles, all green lines located at digital waterfalls. So, raining numbers, 4-track location of 0 calculations, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, then I can size centers and position travels. Okay, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Right? So line connection of 7. 0, okay, of 1 equals lines of 1/5 in track location. Okay? Crossing line screens and direct signal. Panels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's electrical fence. Right there. Off the holographic screen. Right? That is the structure of design of zeros and ones. Through 7 line signatures. That's how it creates electrical fence, guys. Or electrical wall. Okay? Complicated stuff, right? But it has to be. And when you're in position location, what do you do through your north delta and your southier delta of your sun and your moon? You're protected through its structure of its design. You protect it. Okay? Very powerful stuff. Yeah, but see, that's exactly what it is, Captain. It has its own frequency of its own world. Its own world of its own frequency. And you have to truly understand how to do it through a holographic setting. Okay? Yeah, it's huge. And this is just through zeros and ones. Now, when you get into letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, whoop! Look out. You're coming into creation of your holographic city. Hooah! Right? It's amazing when you come to that line connected centers. 2 position locations to all levels of a cup. Now, how do you create that? Center calculation. Right? So, 0 gravity, 1 tractions, 1 equals lines 1/5 equals lines of 8 in connections over in calculations of pi. Okay, so this formula is this. Okay, it's complicated, guys, but you have to understand how this all works in all set location. How you have to understand the pi generation line screens. This is 0, this is 0, this is 0, this is 0. But this is how it's set up. 0, 3 line centers, high position 1, 0. Calculation 0, 1. Line conditions 1, 1, 1. 0 line communication. 0 track location and 1 line rotation. There it is. Boom. So this is this. Hoo-ah. Now the ring communication lines is a crossing line setting high travel. But in position to its location centers, that's what it is of its crypto, of its design, of zeros and ones in frame. But positions, you got to break it down, break it down, break it down, break it down into a graph. Break it down across line, 45-degree angle, communication settings to holographic set location. Done by equation. Hologram. So this is this. Hoo-ah. You understand how powerful that is in set locations of blockchain? How it sets its position, location of its provision? All right. Now everybody's coming back to school. All right. So the A, B's, and C's and 1, 2s, and 3s is really understand how to use that calculation streamlines and 1 inline rotation centers. 1 equals lines of 6, set lines of 1/5 line, indirect location of 8 line, and communication of 0 line, and calculation of 1 center. Okay. Sets lines of atom. Blockchains of 3 triangulations of molecule structures of design at 3, 3, and 3 in set locations. Okay. So it's all about understanding how to set position to its tone. Modifications of 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 line, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 line position, 0, 0, and track locations. Right? Always letters and numbers and shapes in set location in your settings. So 3 track line calculation high interference sets position location high lines, high calculation streamlines, more levels of travel in case and setting of travel. Okay. So all through the atmospheres, a balance of communication, 3 settings right there. Boom. So it sets lines of 1. Okay. 6 lines, charge position, right? 1/8 over 5th, 5th over 1 and track location. Okay. Sets up scales calculation lines of 4 track line connections. solar sail in line rotation so it can travel out of its design set location. Okay. So now you understand the program locations. What you're creating is nothing but a hologram center of zeros and ones and tractions. 0, a 1/5 equals lines of 8 equals lines of 0 over pi in one set location. Okay? 1 line centers of velocity, 5 line centers in position location of volume, 8th line centers of balance / communication. All through holographic of a design of a coffee cup. All right. Now I can add 2 panels in communication. All right. Setting line calculation lines 0, 0, 3 lines of 0, 1, 1, 0 location. There it is, subtraction. Adding the equation, right? But that's the coffee cup of its design through zeros and ones of track lines in position locations. You go through 1/8, 1/5, and 1/4. So it's all about understanding how to surface the set location to create it through its anomaly of its structure, of its design. Okay, through zeros and ones subtraction. Now you understand the importance of a geographical system, all calculations to its geometrical lines and in design. Because that's all it is to its system. It's creating its own structure. But how is it created? It's created from you through your intent. You're telling your zeros and ones to travel its communication setting to 0 operation of 1 line centers of 1/8 of traction. 1/8 of 5 line setting. 1 equals lines of 6 underscore over 5 setting. 6 over 1s over 1 equals lines of 8 setting. It's complicated stuff, isn't it? So now you understand the importance of what you're trying to do is you're trying to create the visual. Get the visual inline connections of its design, of its phenomenon, put you in all track location settings of zeros and ones back in position locations. Okay? So start with the ones, 3 set locations. 1 equals lines of 5th, okay? 8th over 2. 1 equals lines of 6. 1 equals lines of 8th. 1 over 4 equals lines of 4, and 1 positions of 1 equals lines of pi in direct signal. Okay? So to understand this is to understand the algorithm of U of computer frame. To understand U is to understand yourself through computer frame. To understand U is to break it down point by point by point by point by graph, calculation stream, and direct signals in system to its location system, graph and calculation setting. Getting that calculation line is 45-degree angle, right, in traction, comes into a cubical line communication. Now, direct line calculating lines, you have the zeros and ones, 0 line communications, all in order, traveling in the direction of time sequence. See the zeros and ones? All right, so it's all about understanding the travel communications, setting up structures of design. Okay? It can travel wherever it wants. It knows what it's doing in position locations because it has its own space of its own design line connection. All right? So you create the structure and design. So you're protecting yourself from inside connections of what you're creating through your thoughts and provision that comes into its matrix of its locations, the set connections. Okay? Very powerful stuff. But it's powerful when you come into this setting, right? How you create it through holographic stream. Okay, 0 from 1 line connection to high centers. You could change the track interference that changes the platforms, 3 platform communications, right? So you change the 0 lines and you added 3 in position of 5, right? Because you're adding 3 platforms, right? Or you can add another platform, another platform, another platform. That's 4, right? So you change it 3, so that's a 4 over pi in set location, okay? Because you're traveling. Traveling is over cross screens. That's going into the future line rotations. Bring it into the sun, bring it into the moon, a travel medicine line settings, a travel calculation settings, a point system, a travel communication of its direction. Okay. So now we get a little bit more understanding how it works, but it's very powerful when you see it through its design. Okay, so what have you seen it's creating? Okay, so that's just zeros and ones, guys. Just wanted to show you how powerful it is to actually see yourself through your own film strip and breaking these things down in set location. Because that's all it is in traction, nothing else. Just a film strip in your set location and setting. Okay, understanding of 1 equals lines of fifth, underscores of 8 equals lines of 1, line connection settings, 1 equals lines of pi in track location. Okay, now that measures its correlation setting to track lines, break it down in setting in travel communications. Okay, setting up platforms and communications all through track location. Right? A bench. A bench. A bench to sit on. A park bench. Okay? But you have to really understand the calls, right? Then you understand your platforms, then you understand your 144, in position of your months, calculation of space. Now this comes into overtime. Okay, overtime lines comes into frame settings, setting track lines and communication of system travels. Platforms, communication of point systems, 3 calculations, 4 or 5 line rotation centers of travel. Now, direct communication line centers, high position location line centers. 1 equals lines. That's fifth over lines in December calls. Calculation of 1 lines equals lines of eighth over 5. Sets lines of 1 equals lines of 0, and calculation of 3 set location of travels in 3 settings in travel communication. Okay. So basically, understanding is really get in position location of your system travel calculation of zeros and ones. But you have to understand the 1/5, 1 center, 1 operation, 1 set locations. In 144, in relation of times over space over pi and time sequence, the location of measure scales the balance communicates in setting and track calculation line system of 0, 1 and back location. Okay? All right. How's everybody feeling? So, yeah, but that's exactly what it is, Captain. Has all structure of its own set locations. But you have to understand the film strips of you, right? How it works on all calculations. When you come into hero clip locations. If you get a pyramid line rotation centers, this is a film strip of its design, okay? Now, 45-degree angle setting and travels to 3, okay? Platform location grid, okay? Security line defense, okay? Look at that. Inside position locations, right? So that's 3 lines of fifth of an eighth in position of 1 equals lines of pi in traction. Okay? So this is this. This is the formula. This is the structure of the formula. Okay? Very simple, isn't it? But understanding how it's all set up inside of you is understanding the track location to its film strips of its design, breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down through pi. Okay? So, and when you change the location, it changes the pi of its direction, of its design. Okay? So you added line connections of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So sets position of 5. Okay, that's 8 underscore line connections of 3 in track locations. That's 1/5 of an eighth in calculations in line centers of 2 equals lines of 0 track location. Everything goes back to 0, guys. So it's really understand how to set position locations all over the setting. Okay, through its design. Okay, very powerful, isn't it? See, when you're adding equations, this is what you come into, but you got to change the formula. This was this line setting, but the track line doesn't exist anymore because you added frames. So when you're adding frames, you change the formula of its algorithm. Okay? So that's what you guys really have to understand through a park bench. Set in position locations to your settings and track lines to all calculations, no coffee cup. Setting track to its communication line centers to all position location to your setting line condition setting. Right? Look how powerful it is. Look what you just created through zeros and ones. All through zero design. See what you do? That's getting into relation settings. Once you understand how to set position of track lines, you come an out calculation. Okay? All right, so now you're getting a lot more intelligent frame setting, location your settings. Block chains and line centers high position. Open sequence. This is what happens when you get your motion line track lines off position. Okay? Can't travel through that. Too many motion lines of lock interference, right? So it has to be in this position, right? It's got to be in this position location to travel. Okay? This, not this. Because this isn't traveling. This isn't. This is no correlations of balance. This is balance. You can't travel through leaking line centers. So sentients come in, they take over your track location. Okay, they take over your dimensional doors and screen settings. Okay, they take your box line rotation surface and track locations. They take all your security panels and position your sun and your moon and track location. Okay, all because of motion line interference. So it's important you understand how to get in your block centers and travel communications. Okay, through your downloads, right? So don't have open portals and communications, all right? Yet that's exactly what it is, but I'm just showing you how it comes into that calculation setting, Captain. All right, that's what you have to understand, because what you get your downloads. Let's say you get a download. Okay, get one paper, one download location, but it's got a line connection like this. Okay, you get a download, but got something like that. Very rigid, right? So the X3000 comes in, scans position travel. What happened? Right? So it refixes its set locations. And you're good to go. Sets position travel lines at 3 settings. Okay? Blockchain, 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 blockchain. Okay? Done my equation. All right? Volumes of communication line centers of 0, 0, 0, and 0, and 0, and 0 on track location. Set up anomalies lines, 0 track lines. 0, 1 over 5th equals lines of 8 in track lines, line conditional levels. Jump scar line settings to screen lines of 6 in block location of center of travel. Okay, so this is this. Hoo-ah. So now you understand a little bit more how this all works in Vision. Right? Try to understand it through structure of design, just showing you exactly what happens when you get your motion line interference. How you can change anything calculation lines. If you get a lacing line communication, a separation. This is good, this isn't good. This is good, this isn't good, right? You can't have space in between. You can't have space in between, okay? Because it overlines the signal and communication of patterns and set location you're setting. X3000 comes in, hey, what's going on here? Scans position, fixes it right away. Puts it back in lacing communication. 2 is block centers of travel recognition. Hoo-ah! Okay? I'm just showing you through block centers how you guys come into these location formulas. But you truly understand the equations of its illustration of designs, how you come into track location. Location grid. 5th of an 8th line centers. 3 over lines of 1 lines of 5th of an 8th equals lines of 2 equals lines of 0. And position location of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? 7th of an 8th. So if you get a 7th of an 8th channel, 7th of an 8th. 8th, 1 equals lines of 5. 5, 1, 5th equals lines of center of communication. So we all understand how this all works inside our connections, guys, to balance everything, line connections, right? So you got 10 lines into 7, all right? So really understand how to use it through measure. 10, okay, so that's 7 over 8th. 7th of 8th. So you set up the calls, okay? Set up the calls, December calls, and calculations of block center. Sets a platform communication center travel, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There you go. Boom. Okay. Now that sets up a 10 line, calculation of the lines of a 7 line, and position location of an 8 line rotation center of travel. Getting a line calculating line centers is 6 in position of 5, 5 lines of 4, 3, 2, and 1, track location. Direct lines, XT1000 comes in, scans position location settings, 10th over line, 10th over division, 10 over sectors, vectors, and quad calculation setting to travel. Direct communication line interference picks up the position of travel communications in calculation. Direct line centers brings it in position locations and brings it track line connection. Now in direct line centers, the XT1000 goes and positions to its moon in travel recognition, stores it in its information cycle into its archive as that location. Hooah! All right. All right, so if you get 7th of an 8th of a channel, 7th of an 8th, okay, underscore channel, okay? Really stand the particle systems of your block location centers of travel, okay? Point systems and point line centers of 2 block locations, right? So 7th in the center of line rotations, 8th in channel communication of center communication. Calculation line centers, true block line centers in positions, platform, platform, platform. Okay. Center calculation lines on position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. See, I changed the travel mechanisms of all levels of blockchain into triangulation resets. So the XT1000 comes in, see what you've done. Okay, let's see what we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All good to go, right? So if it's good to go, it picks it up. Why do you think you have crop circles, guys, in calculation stream? Hooah. Picks up the platforms in calculation lines and stores it in its mainframe. Mega multi-pass. Okay. Hooah. Done my equation. That's it. We're all done. Look at that. Now you understand the importance why you have to get in the configuration of your setting to set up your own general crypto asset design. Okay? Through structure, through vision, through imagination, through phenomenon. Okay? Hooah! See you in 5. Doo-doo.